Hi there, Malibu owners. Today in your 2017 Chevrolet Malibu, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install CURT's Class 2 1¼ inch trailer hitch receiver. And this is what your hitch is going to look like when it's installed. The cross tube is going to be visible, but it's tucked up pretty far underneath the vehicle, so it's going to be fairly unnoticeable. The receiver at the back is a 1¼ by 1¼ inch, so it's going to be great for all of your light towing and accessory needs. So you want to put a bike rack in it. That'll be great for hauling up to a couple of bikes. You could put a cargo carrier on it to help bring some more cargo with you down to the lake. And if you have a small, very small utility trailer, you could use it to help move some items around as well. It uses a 1/2 inch hitch pin and clip. Now, one doesn't come included with the hitch, but you can pick one up here at etrailer.com. It features plate style safety chain loops, and they've got a moderate size opening that should accommodate most safety chains. It features a 350-pound tongue weight, and that's the force going down on top of the receiver. This is going to be good for up to a couple of bikes, so if you had a bike rack in the back, you could easily load up a couple of large bikes and it would be fine on there. And it features a 3,500-pound gross towing capacity, and that's how much it can pull behind it. You do want to verify in your vehicle's owner's manual and ensure you don't exceed any of its towing capacities. And now I've got some measurements for you to help you when deciding on accessories. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube, it measures about 11 inches. This is important when determining if you need a drop, rise, or raise shank on any of your accessories. And since it is so low, I do recommend a raise shank on your accessories. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, it measures about 6.5 inches. This is important when determining if any of your folding accessories can be placed in the upright storage position without contacting the bumper. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's go through the installation process together so you can have the confidence to do it at home. We'll begin our installation at the back of the vehicle by lowering down our exhaust. You'll have an exhaust bracket located here at the back. There are 2 bolts that hold the bracket on. We're going to remove those using a 15mm socket. We'll remove both the bolts using a 15mm socket. Now, before we take out our next exhaust hanger, we went ahead and placed a strap beneath it to catch it, so that way it won't cause any damage to it when it drops down. This hanger here, you'll just want to pry this out. Using our pry bar to pry it off there. Now we can come back to that first hanger that we took those bolts out of. You'll lift up slightly, pull the hanger towards the rear of the vehicle to clear the hooks, and then you can drop it down. We'll now remove the heat shield located underneath of it. You'll need to remove all the nuts that are holding it on. You'll probably want to use a pair of channel locks or pliers to remove those. We're going to use a pair of pliers to twist the nuts off. Once you get them started, you can then take them off by hand. There's going to be a total of 6 that you're going to want to remove to get this heat shield lowered down. And now we can drop down our heat shield. We'll now need to trim out our heat shield. I've gone ahead and marked the area here that we'll need to trim out. We'll use a pair of snips to trim that. Now that we've got that section removed, we can reinstall our heat shield. And now with it reinstalled, you'll see the frame where we'll be installing our hitch. Now over on the passenger side, we're going to have an undershield. We're going to need to remove that next. The undershield on the passenger side will remove all the bolts around the edge as well as the plastic nut there at the back. We'll use a 10mm socket for the plastic nut and a 7mm socket for all the remaining bolts. You'll also find 2 bolts located behind the passenger wheel and the fender liner going into the bottom of the cover. And now we can remove our undershield and set it aside. If you have a dual exhaust model, you'll already have these bolts removed. And you're going to want to repeat the same trimming procedure on the passenger side. But if you have a single exhaust model like we do, you want to remove your undershield, and below that you'll still have the bolts where your exhaust hanger would be, and we need to take those out so we can use those with our hitch install. The only one that really matters is the one on the inside, so you can take them both out to get them out of the way to make it easier to lift your hitch up, or you can just take the one out that needs to come out. I'm going to go ahead and take them both out to make it easier to get my hitch lifted up. We're going to use the same size on this side, 15 millimeter, to remove these. We'll now fish wire our hardware into the small holes on each side. We're going to start with the rearmost hole, put our coiled end of our fish wire through, bring it towards the front of the vehicle, and then come out through the large hole. We'll then slide our spacer over the coiled end, slide that up into the frame. Then we'll attach our bolt to the coiled end and pull it back through. We're going to repeat that for this hole and then both holes on the other side. And now with an extra set of hands, we'll lift our hitch into position. We'll need to go up over the exhaust on the driver's side first, then we can get our passenger side up. We'll now put our fish wires through the holes. We're going to be using the set of holes towards the front of the vehicle. And we'll then lift it up. Once you've got it lifted up over your bolts, you can pull off your fish wire and thread on a flange nut. Once you've got one started on each side, the hitch will hold itself up, making it easier to install the rest of your hardware. On your passenger side, if you have a single exhaust model like we do, we can take the long hex head bolt that comes in the kit, and it's going to thread through the inside bolt where we removed those before, and then it's going to go through the hole in the bottom of our hitch. Might have to lift it up a little bit to get it to line up and to get it to go through there. We also want to start the bolt on our exhaust side. The difference here is that we're really not going to be tightening down this one. We just want it to go through the hole to make sure that it all lines up. If you've got a dual exhaust, you'll do this on both sides. And it may be necessary to lift the hitch up a little bit while threading this in to get it to go through the hole. We've gone ahead and ran this bolt down on the other side. We're going to take the silver colored nuts and thread it on to the bolt. We can now go back and tighten down all of our hardware except for the one bolt like this on the other side. And if you had dual exhaust, you're going to want to go ahead and just leave this loose for now until you get your hangers back up. This is just for aligning these holes up at this point. We're going to use a 17 millimeter socket to tighten down the copper colored nuts and the copper colored bolt. You'll use a 15 millimeter socket on the silver bolt. We can now go back and torque down all the hardware we just tightened down. You can find your torque specifications in your instructions. We can now reinstall our exhaust. We'll need to remove that bolt that we had placed in before for alignment. And then we can lift our exhaust back up and set it on top of the little hangers there. And now we can reinstall the bolts. We'll put the factory bolt on the hole towards the outside and our new bolt that came with our hitch towards the inside, and then tighten those down. And then you'll fish your nut in over your exhaust and thread it onto the back of the new bolt that we put in, so it'll be just like the other side. You'll then need to use a 15 millimeter wrench to get in there and tighten it down. And now we'll torque that to the specifications as well. You may need to use a 15 millimeter crow's foot like we are to get in there. We can then move forward and reinstall our exhaust hanger by spraying it with some silicone lubricant and sliding it back on. And we can now take our exhaust strap down. We'll now reinstall our undershield. You'll have to trim it in order for it to fit. There is nothing in your instructions on how to trim it, so you just have to hold it up there and determine where to trim it. I've kind of got it marked out. You're going to need to take from the inside edge towards the outside edge here. We're going to need to take off a couple of inches from almost all the way towards the front, all the way towards the back. We'll use a pair of snips to cut that out. Once you've got your undershield trimmed out, you'll just reinstall it following the reverse order how we removed it. When you've got it installed, it should look something like this. You can see we've cut out around it, and it clears and fits up nicely. And that completes our installation of CURT's Class 2 1 1/4 inch trailer hitch receiver on your 2017 Chevrolet Malibu.